Welcome back. In this episode, I have decided to talk about aspects and what they are. What are aspects? The reason I've decided to talk about aspects today is because a lot of people that I've been speaking to recently, I've recognized that it's been much more beneficial to get a very good understanding of what aspects actually are, because healing essentially is to reintegrate aspects. If we're not reintegrating aspects, we're not really going towards healing. We're just kind of making ourselves feel better. Now, there is a way to heal, and there are many different ways to reintegrate these aspects. So today I'm going to cover off what aspects are and a few ways that we can actually reintegrate these aspects. My name is Ariane. I'm a healer and life coach. Before we jump into the video, I want to bring to your attention an online course I'm working on currently. This course is called Heal Yourself. In this course, I am going to teach you how we work emotionally as a human being. I'm going to teach you what's going on, why you feel the way you do, and I'm going to give you many tools out of the healing toolbox in order for you to learn how to heal yourself. It's always good to get that help when we do need to, but it's very important to know that you alone have the power to heal yourself, to heal your emotional wounds, and to be in a better position in life, to reduce the anxiety, to reduce the stress you have. This is all within yourself. What this course does is it teaches you how to apply those skills. And this is something that you can carry on doing for the rest of your life. So let's jump straight into the video. In this video, we're going to talk about aspects and what they are. Now, to get an understanding of what aspects are, we need a better understanding of what trauma actually is and what happens to us at a moment where we are traumatized. Now, trauma isn't only when something big happens. Trauma is very normal for the human being, actually. The definition of trauma that most of us have is actually outdated. Trauma itself is distress without resolve. What I'll do actually is I'll link one of my videos, What is Trauma? If you want to get much more of an understanding of what actually happens in the moment of trauma, go watch that and then come back to this one. Now, in the moment of trauma, what happens is that our consciousness splits. Think of consciousness as like a river. You know, when you get like a split in the river and then the river actually goes like in two different ways, it's very much like that. Now, these splits in the consciousness are aspects of us. So these aspects are actually different versions, different parts of us. All humans have multiple personalities. I know we only call it a multiple personality disorder when it's really out of control, but all humans actually have multiple personalities. You can tell this by when, like, for example, if I was playing football on the field, that would be a different side to me than the one sat here recording this episode. So those are like different sides of us, and you've always heard the term, "Oh, you don't want to get on his bad side." Now, aspects are like that. They are different parts of us, different sides of us. So when that split occurs in the consciousness, you create essentially two parts of yourself. Now, depending on what the situation is and what the experience is that has created this split in the consciousness, will depend on what these aspects have in terms of their needs, wants, and desires. These aspects have different needs, wants, and desires, but they have their own needs, wants, and desires. So what we do in the moment of trauma is we take one of those aspects on and we put the other one, most of the time, the one we don't like to feel its feelings. So for example, if there was an aspect that was feeling sad, upset, angry, scared, shameful, because of something that isn't there in the environment and not available to be able to meet that need that the aspect has, then the aspect would feel bad. So let's say one of the aspects is crying in that moment, and we don't want to feel that. So the way that we protect ourselves is that we actually put that aspect, someone we don't have access to, in order for us not to feel the feelings that it's carrying. And that place is our subconscious. So we take on an aspect, and then we put another aspect somewhere we don't have access to. Now, the aspect we take on, the reason we choose to take that aspect on and not the other one is because that aspect will keep us safe in the moment. Like I said, to get a much broader understanding of all of this and what happens in the moment of trauma, watch that video. I will put it in the description as well. So by us putting this aspect into our subconscious, we're essentially pushing it away. We don't want to feel it. We hate feeling the feelings that that aspect carries. Now, you're not necessarily doing anything wrong by doing this. This is a way that we work as human beings, and this is how we keep ourselves safe in those moments. But what we really, really need to understand is that we are pushing away an aspect of ourselves. Now, our mind only works on complete life experiences. And because trauma is distress without resolve, it's not resolved. It's not a complete life experience. So what your mind and body tries to do is try to show you, communicate to you of what's not been resolved. Now, the way it shows you is it uses a feedback system. A feedback system, which is what our feelings are. Our feelings are not just something we feel and that's it. It's actually a feedback system, like a guidance system. It's a feedback system to the emotional wounds that we have. For example, if you had a cut on your shoulder, all the sensations and feelings you would get from having that cut, and if it was bleeding, whether that's pain, tingliness, or whatever, will get your attention to look at that cut. This is exactly the same. Your feelings are a feedback system to look at not an open wound on your skin, like you would have that cut in your shoulder, but an emotional wound. Now, when that happens, these aspects are being pushed out of our subconscious. So the body and mind is trying to communicate with you by giving you this aspect to say, this has not been resolved. And we take that as feeling bad, so we push it away. Now, this is what we call anxiety. Anxiety itself is not an emotion. We have like love, fear, shame, happiness, peace, joy, but those are all emotions. Anxiety itself is not an emotion. It's a mask of a suppressed emotion. So when we feel anxiety, that's the mind and body's way of pushing that aspect to the surface from our subconscious to try and get our attention, to say that you have an emotional wound that is not complete. It has not been resolved. So I want you to start getting used to recognizing what your feelings are and using them for what they are. We've gone through our entire lives not really understanding and not knowing, and we think, oh, it's just how I feel. This person has made me feel like this. I've been triggered to feel like this. But it's actually a communication. And a big reason of why things never seem to get better is because we've not learned to communicate with our feelings. We've not learned that this is actually a communication to a wound that we have. If we knew that, we would be able to understand the wound and then work on healing that wound. But we've not known. So we keep getting anxiety or anger or fear or shame. And these are all ways of communicating to us that there's an emotional wound there. Now, these aspects all have basically a hand on the wheel of our lives anyway. We do get these feelings of anxiety. We do get anger. We do get fear. We do get shame. And even though we are pushing them away because we we don't like feeling it. We don't like the feelings that they carry. Even though we're pushing them away, it doesn't mean they're not there. It doesn't mean they don't affect us. Sometimes the feeling gets too much and we end up doing things that we don't want to do, which can be a way of us abandoning ourselves as well. Like, for example, if you have a need, well, everyone's got a need for connection, but there have been many experiences in your life and you've learned that you get that connection by putting yourself out there and kind of abandoning yourself. So maybe you may go somewhere where you don't really want to go to get that human connection. And because you don't really want to go there, you're actually abandoning yourself in order to get that connection. Now, this is just one small example. There are many different things that we do. There's aspects inside of you that are starving of this connection. There's aspects inside of you that are starving of love, of validation. And we've always learned to get that externally. Now, the problem with that is when we only get that externally, then if that external source of validation or love or connection is gone, then we're at the mercy of that. We're like starved of it. So part of your healing journey is to learn how to meet your own needs, how to give the love that you deserve to yourself. And that's how we heal. That's how we get these aspects to reintegrate. The whole goal of healing is to reintegrate these aspects, is to essentially undo the split in the consciousness. If we're not reintegrating these aspects and becoming conscious of why these aspects have been split, what they need, what they're feeling, and if we're not inviting them in with love, we're not essentially healing. There's a lot of people that do get caught in the trap of their healing journey and they just want to feel good. So they will do things that make them feel good, whether that's just go for walks, or they'll just get like massages, or just doing things, but without actually doing the work and without diving into the reasons of why we feel the way we do. There is no long-term healing happening. Healing is actually going through your pain, because we have to understand what these aspects are trying to say to us. They're trying to get our attention in order to be healed, in order to be reintegrated. We need to listen to them. They actually are a part of you. They have ways of communicating with you. They have been trying to communicate with you this whole time. They actually know what you're thinking, and you can't actually trick them. And the reason why everyone says self-love is kind of like the main fuel, the main driver to healing, is because what we've been doing is we've been pushing them away because we don't like feeling the feelings that they carry. So we've been pushing these aspects away in our subconscious, and every time they try and come up and we feel that anxiety, we don't like it, so we push them away. We distract ourselves, we get high, we get drunk, we go shopping, we go on social media, we comfort eat, anything external that would give us comfort to getting rid of anxiety is a way of pushing it away. Might distract ourselves by binging on Netflix. There's multiple ways we do this. Now, if you're pushing an aspect of yourself away, i.e. not wanting to feel that undesirable feeling, then that's the opposite of self-love. Unconditional love is to unconditionally accept. So if I unconditionally love my child, that means I unconditionally accept him for who he is. And not just my child, anyone. Now, you can unconditionally love someone and still not have them in your life. For example, if someone is toxic, you're in a toxic relationship, you can unconditionally accept, love that person, but still have strong enough boundaries to say, well, I accept you for who you are, but I don't accept this behavior towards me. So we are, we're not together anymore. Now, if we're pushing these aspects of us away, that's the exact opposite of acceptance, of love. So the reason why everyone always says healing is to unconditionally love is because we have to accept these aspects of ourselves unconditionally, no matter what. There is no, you should feel like this, you shouldn't feel like that. There is no, well, I logically know that that's not the case. So, these aspects, most of these splits occurred in our childhood. And most of these aspects are the child version of us. Now, when these splits occurs, these aspects remain in the age that they were when this split occurred. So it's not like a split will occur when you're 4 years old, and now if you're 38, then that split is also 38. That aspect in your subconscious is still 4 years old. So the anxiety you feel may have fear under it. And that fear, you're still feeling it the same way you did when you were 4 years old. So the goal is self-love, to invite them in, to listen to what they have to say. Now, the way we do this is by doing shadow work. The human shadow is the part of us that we don't know about because we've rejected, we've pushed away. It's something we don't want to see. It's the parts of us that we've denied in order to be accepted by our external world. For example, if you were brought up in a household where every time you danced, you were made to feel ashamed, like shame was put onto you every time you danced, then, but you really, really loved dancing, then you would have created a split, and that aspect of you that loves to dance, you would deny that aspect of you and push it into your subconscious. So shadow work, it means to go in the shadow, the parts where we don't know what we don't know, and to get these aspects out of there, to understand and learn what we don't know, to be able to reintegrate and heal. Now, one of the things that I hear a lot of people, and when I speak to people, is we don't want to feel undesirable feelings, and that's very, very understandable. And at the beginning, it is harder. It's very much harder to feel the undesirable feelings. Once you get going, you see that you can do this. You have the strength, you have the power to be able to do this. But there's a lot of people that I speak to that say to me things like, I just want to feel them to heal. And if you go in the attitude that I just want to feel these feelings and reintegrate these aspects just to heal, it's not going to work. These aspects understand everything that you're thinking. They hear all of your thoughts. They know everything that you're thinking. So if you have a strategy to just do things, just to get it done, they're not going to reintegrate. They're not going to come to you. The goal is to accept with unconditional love, to get them to reintegrate. So we essentially need to be open to hearing what they have to say in a very loving way. And sometimes it could take a healing session to reintegrate one aspect, could take an hour. Sometimes it can take 10, 15 minutes. But because we've been pushing these aspects of ourselves away this whole time, they've actually lost a lot of trust in us. So we have to regain and rebuild that trust. And we do that by being very loving to ourselves and very open to ourselves. If we're trying to heal just to not feel the way that we want, we're not accepting these aspects. Because that comes with the attitude of, well, I don't really care what you have to say. I just want to feel better. And that's not how we heal. Healing is to accept yourself. It's completely okay that you feel the way you do. You've been put through a system where you've had experiences and you've needed to learn how to stay safe because of the experiences you had. And the outcome is the way you feel. There's nothing wrong with that. It's how you work as a human being. I'm not trying to blame anyone. I mean, you definitely don't have the blame. Whether it's someone else's fault that you feel like this or not is irrelevant, because you're here now. And no one is going to come and do this for you. No one can. No one else can heal your emotional wounds other than you. It doesn't work like that. That's why my job is to teach you how to heal. No one can do this other than you. And that's why it's your responsibility to heal yourself. No one else's. So what does healing actually mean? Healing means to reintegrate them, to essentially, in order to undo the split in the consciousness. We do this by meeting the needs of the aspect, by listening to what the aspects have to say and meeting the needs that they have. The reason why our survival mind kicked in the moment and created the split in the moment was because how we felt and what our needs were invalidated. Now, there are different ways of doing this. Just becoming aware and conscious to something that happened in your past and why you would feel the way you do is a huge step. It's like 80% of healing that aspect of yourself anyway. But that's not with all cases. There are obviously circumstances, but you can do many different things. Inner child work is very powerful. That's one of the strongest forms of shadow work. Becoming, obviously I've already said, just being aware of it. Parts work is really good. Parts work is very powerful. I will do a video on parts work, and I will do an example demonstration of parts work. But parts work essentially is where you would become both of the aspects separately. So you would have a chair and then maybe another chair in front of you, and then you would sit down and become that entire aspect, and that aspect would then talk to the other aspect. So then you'd switch over, go to the other chair, and then you'd become the other aspect. Now, when I did this, I had one aspect crying his eyes out, whilst the other aspect was like angry at that aspect. And it was to do I've done this many times, so one of the most memorable ones was when the aspect was very angry at the other aspect because I was making decisions in my life that was really abandoning myself emotionally, and that was really hurtful, and it kept getting me in situations where I kept getting hurt. And the goal of parts work is the two aspects need to come to an agreement of a way to move forward. That's a huge technique and a tool out of the healing toolbox, parts work. And I will make a video about that. Now, I did mention this, but before I finish this episode, I do want to say self-love is the main driver, the main fuel of your journey to healing. Because, like I said, if you're not reintegrating these aspects, and the way you would do that is you would take them on. So invite them from your subconscious, take them on. And when you take them on, you feel what they feel. And I know I know a lot of people, when we talk about healing, it's like, oh, well, I feel, fear. Maybe it's fear under anxiety and I just need to feel that fear. You're not actually feeling an emotion. It's not like a brand new emotion that's come out of thin air. It's the emotion that the aspect is carrying. So you're not just feeling fear. You're taking on that aspect that is fearful. If an aspect of you has been crying and their emotion is sadness and feeling sad, when you take on that aspect, you will cry because you've taken on that aspect. You're not feeling sadness. So this is why it's very important. If you just want to feel the feeling in order to heal, it's not going to work, because that aspect knows that you're not accepting the aspect. You just want to feel better. But that aspect has been trying to communicate with you, trying to tell you how it feels, what's going on. So if we're not practicing self-love, that's not going to happen. If we're not loving to ourselves, and I don't mean you need to be fully loving to yourself, otherwise you won't heal. When you start practicing self-love, then this will happen. Now, no one can practice self-love if they're not reintegrating aspects. And what I mean by that is, if you say that you're practicing self-love, but every time a feeling of anxiety comes up and you push it away and you're distracting yourself and you're not reintegrating aspects, you're pushing aspects of yourself away because you hate feeling that. So you're hating aspects of yourself. So if anyone says that they are practicing self-love, but they're not reintegrating aspects and not doing the work, they're not. You cannot practice self-love if you are not reintegrating these aspects. You cannot practice self-love if you are not reintegrating and listening and taking with love and acceptance and compassion and kindness these aspects. You can't be nice to yourself in one way and then not in another way. So do something nice. Maybe you'll take yourself out for lunch, but then when you feel anxiety and you feel these aspects trying to get your attention, you push it away. You're not practicing self-love. That's why self-love is the main fuel, the main driver, the main thing when it comes to healing. Your true happiness is on the other side of your pain. I know pain sucks. I know it does. It really, really does. But it's how you heal. It's how you work as a human being. Your feelings are a feedback system. Start using them for what they are, a feedback system. If you get triggered into feeling anger, there's an emotional wound there. All anger has fear under it. It's coming from fear. It's just anger vibrates at a higher frequency. So we choose to be angry so we don't feel the fear. But there's a reason. If someone, let's say your partner leaves you and goes with someone else, and you're very, very angry at them, that's a lot of that feeling, and a lot of the triggered fear and anger is coming from fear, from an experience you had in your past. So when in your past did you not get chosen? Did you get, did it make you feel like you're not good enough, like you're rejected? Everything that happens to you is neutral, except for the meaning we give to the experiences that have happened. So explore. You can actually talk to your subconscious and you can get this information out. Obviously, it helps to talk to healers and therapists, and they may be able to see things that you can't in the moment, but that's not the overall goal for the rest of your life. You just need to start learning how to communicate with your subconscious. You need to start learning how to communicate with your mind and body. Just learn what feelings actually are. They're a feedback system. You get to the stage eventually where a feeling will come up, whether that's jealousy, fear, shame, anxiety, and instead of being reactive, you get to a stage where you're like, oh, okay, well, what does that mean? What was that? What's just happened now? What meaning did I give to the situation now that's made me feel like this? When did that happen to me in the past? Right, that's the wound from my childhood, when I didn't get chosen, where I got made to feel like I'm not good enough, where I felt rejected, where I felt unloved. That's the wound that this feeling is communicating to me that needs healing. That aspect. From that moment, when I heal that aspect, these experiences will not make me feel like this anymore. Because your feelings, your feedback system won't have anything to communicate with you if it's already healed. It's something that, we need to learn, really, as humans. Our feelings are much, much more than we think they are. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you got value out of this episode. I'm not entirely sure what my next episode is going to be on, but before you go, I would like to say I am currently doing free online workshops over Zoom. And in these online workshops, I'm going to be talking about things like I did today, like about aspects and self-love and trauma, our childhood, many, many different subjects. These workshops at the moment are running every other week. And if you're interested, like I said, it is free. It's just a chance for me to give you guys more knowledge so you can kind of use that on your healing journey. I will leave a link in the description. That is going to be part of my MeetUp group. So if you'd like to get involved, join my MeetUp group, and all the events of my meditations as well as the online workshops are there as well. I am also working on upgrading my website, so eventually all of my meditations will be available on my website. So definitely keep your eye out on that. And all my updates of everything that I'm doing, I'm going to be posting on my social media as well, and all of my social media links will be in the description as well. Again, thank you for joining in this episode, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye. Things to, oh my God, no, let's do that again. In this video, I'm going to teach you, my name is Ariane, I'm Ali. This is it now.